Hey guys, now that summer's over and school's in session, cornrows are usually our go-to hairstyles because as the temperatures get cooler and the air gets drier, braids are great for retaining moisture. Now, some people think it's hard to do, but cornrows are pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So hopefully you'll find this step-by-step tutorial helpful. Now, I'd like to begin by spraying the hair with water. I find that it's a lot easier to do when hair is wet. Cornrows are usually done in small sections, but for the purpose of this video, I've decided to just part the hair in two sections so it looks more like Dutch braids, which are kind of like the same thing. It's just that Dutch braids are usually done in large sections, cornrows are usually done in much smaller sections, and it also varies culturally as well. Some people may refer to it as Dutch braids, some people may say cornrows. All right, so make sure your hair is fully detangled. I like to go through finger detangling first, but what I'm doing is I'm using a wide tooth comb and I'm starting from the bottom up. So once I've finger detangled, I use a large tooth comb and just go over it just to make sure that there are no knots. And now it's time to begin our first cornrow. Now I like to use a fine tooth rat tail comb to smooth out the hair and to part a small section. Now with that small section, I'm going to divide into three smaller parts and begin as you would a normal 3-strand braid. So we're going to label this 1, 2 position, 3 position. So that first position on the right is what we're going to start with. Then we're going to have that middle section that we're going to refer to as the second position and then the third position. So notice we put that first position under the second or middle position, and we take that third position and put it underneath that middle position. So there is that first position under the middle position, and now we're going to grab that third position and place it under the middle position. And we start off like we do a normal 3-strand braid, but the only difference is here I'm adding hair and I'm using my index finger to push some hair through to the third position now, and using my left index finger I'm repeating that step and adding in hair to that middle position and smoothing it out with my right hand. And it's so important to smooth that hair out to prevent knots. Now my daughter has very long hair, so it's easy to get tangled. So there it is again, that index finger gets pushed through. We're going to smooth out with the right hand, and we're just going to be careful not to have any knots, and we're just going to gently smooth that hair out, grab onto it, and then continue repeating that step. Now it's important not to pull the hair too tight, because pulling the hair too tight could lead to tension or traction alopecia, and you don't want that. It can be very, very painful. And it takes forever to grow back. I've experienced it and I've had friends who've gone through this. So again, just be careful. Now here's a closer view of the braid. Now notice again, I'm using my right index finger, I'm pushing through and I'm coming around that number 3 position, and I'm just adding hair from the left and I'm just repeating it over again. So you can kind of see exactly how it's done. So hopefully you can get a good view of this. Now, if you're just now learning to braid, hopefully this will be helpful, because notice I'm using mostly my fingertips. And that's the most trickiest thing to learn, just how to hold all 3 strands and maneuver. But just to give you an idea, you're using mainly your fingertips in order to achieve this braid. Now, once you get to the base, it's important to just make sure you gather all of the strands. And now you're just going to continue as you would normally a 3-strand braid. So you're pretty much done. I mean, the hardest part is over. Now you continue along with that 3-strand braid. And again, I'm just making sure I carefully smooth out the hair as I go along, just to make sure that there are no knots and the hair is not kind of wrapping around each other, because that could sometimes happen. So that's another reason why I like to braid when hair is wet. Another thing I like to do is add a little bit of coconut oil, some kind of light oil, depending again on your hair texture, hair type. And that can also aid in sealing in that moisture. Because remember, when you wet the hair with water, that moisturizes the hair. Now you have to seal in the moisture, and in order to do that, you have to add in some kind of oil. Now my daughter's hair is very light, it's fine, so she doesn't need anything too heavy. I know if you have thicker, coarser hair, you may want to use like a shea butter, something a little heavier, but for her, I usually like to go with like an argan oil or a light coconut oil, and it's enough for her. And once we get to the end, I just add a little rubber band, secure, add a little bit more oil, just to make sure that her hair is nicely moisturized, especially the ends, because it's the oldest part of the hair. And voila! I hope you find this tutorial helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!